You have the biggest butt fluff, Juno. Had to state that it's Juno and not Jeff. He might have a butt fluff, I don't know. Can't see. Hello everyone, welcome back to Foster the Meeple, a channel all about
board games.
And
board gaming things.
Exactly, we're back again with another board game snapshot.
Pacha! Pacha!
Pacha! It's funny how so many different people think that what we're saying is a different thing. Mm-hmm. It's Bidja. B-I-I-D. B-I-D-J-A-A.
Yeah.
Bidja.
That's a good thing to clarify because people do get it wrong.
I know, and I don't want people to be embarrassed as they go around saying Paja or Bia or whatever.
Thinking about you people.
Think about you guys, okay? So anyways, for anybody that doesn't know, our board game snapshot videos are a series where we do 5 mini reviews, and that's exactly what we have for you today. And I believe all but one of these games were sent to us for review, okay? But to get started, we are going to start with a little game called Scare B&B, and this is from Wicked Weird, and they actually sponsored this portion of the video, so we won't be doing a review, we'll be doing a bit of an overview instead. Hef?
Scare B&B is a very lightweight, card-driven game where you are each playing out a grid of cards that represents like a, not mansion, but a abode. Some of them, one's a castle, one's a treehouse, etc., etc. In each of those abodes, there is one key card and one lock card. What you're trying to do is reveal cards one at a time until you find the key, find the lock, and then one of your guests escapes. You have to do that 3 times in order to win. And you're each messing with each other, messing with the orientation of your cards, you know, picking them up, shuffling all of them back out, that sort of thing. But once you reveal a card, that card is up. It's up and that's it.
It's up and at it.
So it's really just a race to get all of your guests out of your Scare B&B.
Exactly. Yes.
It's very lightweight, very kid-friendly, very quick.
Very good for Halloween.
Very quick, card-driven. I mean, it's 5+ for the age group here. Like, super light game. Intro to the hobby-friendly game that plays in, 10 minutes.
Yes, and it could be good if you are getting your kids into gaming or if you're trying to teach them different skills like memory, or you're trying to teach them different skills like deduction, because basically at the very beginning of the game, like, I would put out Jeff's little abode, as he calls it.
She would know where
I would know where the key and the lock is. So it could be a really good activity for your kid or for yourself to kind of like figure out, ooh, like what's a good strategy here. But, you know, if you're into the Halloween themed games and the artwork, all of the information is going to be linked in the description below. But that is Scare B&B.
Scare B&B.
Next up, I would like to talk to you about a little game called Harmonies. Now, this game was sent to us from Asmodee Canada. Thank you to Asmodee Canada. And is published by La Blood, who you may recognize from... What did we always... This is like a throwback to when we first started.
It's the card engine game with the big chunky dice. Seasons.
Seasons.
That's not what you were thinking, was it?
Nope, Mysterium. La Blood. Anyways, Harmonies is all the rage right now, okay? If you haven't heard about it yet, I don't know what's going on. But basically, I'll show you the back of the box. Harmonies is kind of like a bit of an abstract-y style game with an animal theme. The artwork is the same person who does like Dixit and Stella and those types of games. So it's very pretty, and it's all different kinds of animals. So basically in this game, there is going to be different animal cards that you are going to be kind of like recruiting. And they all have very like unique structures that they need these little discs to be put out in, okay? Because you're going to be taking piles, very Azul-like. You're going to be taking tiles from a little circle, discs that are all these different colors that represent different terrain types. So maybe mountains or rivers or fields or whatever it might be. And you're going to be putting them out onto your little board in front of you, and you're trying to organize them in a way that is going to satisfy those animals. So each animal is going to have these little tiny cubes on it. And every time that you are able to satisfy what that animal likes, you can take one of those cubes and put it onto that little arrangement that you just made. And you're going to do that until the cubes are gone for that animal card, and then that's how many you're going to be able to score. So each cube removed is allowing you to score some more points. Okay? You are going to continue to do that until there is less than 2 spaces available on the board. And that's when the game is going to end. It's relatively quick, and basically there's just a little bit of a decision space about, do I want to take this animal now? Is it a little bit too complex? Like what kind of discs are coming out? Because you can only have a certain amount of animals at once. I believe it's 4 animals at once. Okay?
It's a 2D and 3D kind of puzzle, because you're also building up terrain types over multiple stacks.
Yes.
So it's not just like, well, 3 rivers are going to give me a thing. It's like, well, mountains need to be 3 high. Treetops need to be 4 high, or something like that.
Exactly.
Like, there's a 2D and 3D puzzle that you're doing here.
That's right. Not only are you trying to satisfy the animals, but at the end of the game, each terrain type also scores in a certain way, like Jeff just said. So basically, that's kind of the game in a nutshell. I love this game.
It's incredible.
It's so good. We've played it at 2. I played it again at Canada Plays at 4. It does play solo as well. Haven't played it solo yet, but really excited to. I might even do a solo mode on it for BGG.
I understand. Like, again, there's a ton of nature-themed games. There's very similar themed games to this one. And we've talked about a lot of them on this channel, and you can go check all of that out. But this one, there's something that's it's got a spicy little twist on it, and I like it.
Easy to learn, hard to master. This is like the definition of that category of game. The rule set is super light.
Yes.
But it's so puzzly, because you're not going to be able to score everything that you want, and sometimes the terrain tiles or discs that come out, you're like, oh, I just really need some rivers here, and they're not coming out, and so you have to kind of pivot of what you're doing, and it's just so good, and it's so pretty, and I love it.
I love it.
You
have to what?
Pivot.
There it is.
Jeff likes to make that joke, even though he doesn't know anything about Friends.
I don't.
We'll just watch that episode so you know.
I know.
But that is Harmonies. This, I could not recommend more. If you have a chance to play it, please do. It's not on BGA, but it most likely will end up coming to BGA, because a lot of the Asmodee games do. I really hope it does, because I would be in this game, a game of this, constantly.
She would take a turn every week.
That'd be great, and I would have the best time ever.
Next up, sent to us from Bitewing Games, we have a little bit of a duo.
A twofer.
We have Cascadero. Can you tell who did the art? And we have Cascadito. Cascadero and Cascadito are Reiner Knizia games, and they play very Reiner Knizia-esque. In Cascadero, the El Cascadero is trying to send out their envoys, their ministers, to gain trust of the surrounding villages, fiefs, whatever you want to call them, towns, and by doing that, gain their favor. So in the game, you each are playing as a certain color faction, certain color minister of faction, that you are going to be placing your ministers out on this board. And you're basically trying to make adjacency around the towns, as well as string together large pockets of groupings of ministers. Each color has a representative track on the board that you can see here to the the one that Jamie's circling with her finger. Depending on your player color, you cannot win this game if you do not get to the top of your corresponding color track. So if I'm playing as the pink faction, I need to get to the top of that track or I can't win. And how do you do that? Well, each town has a corresponding color. So by scoring points of those towns, you're going to move up that track. In typical track fashion, as you go up that track, it's going to trigger abilities for you, bonus actions and stuff that you can do. How you score points is the first person, I guess, basically to build a grouping, which is 2 or more ministers, will make first contact with a village, and they will score 1 point.
They're like, hey,
because the villagers are like, I don't really know what you're about yet. But the next person to then put a grouping at that town will score 2 points. So you almost don't want to be the first person there, but you need other people to be the first one there so that you can come and be like, hey, I'm good, we're good, I'm going to score 2 points. And you're going to move up that corresponding track depending on the color of the town. There is one wild track, which is the white one there on the side. There are white towns. They just do not have, it does not have a dependency. You don't have to be the top of that track. There's no white color player in this game. It's just a wild track that you can go up. There are bonus things that you're trying to score in this game, global objectives essentially, as well as kind of like first 2 objectives as well.
Correct.
And they're pretty standard fare for a game like this. You know, link 2 towns of the same color. Link 3 towns that are different colors, etc., etc., etc. And it is basically a race for points, and to be the first up your color track will win the game.
Exactly. This, and I just very briefly, Cascadito is a roll and write version of Cascadero. So it works very, very similarly, except obviously you're rolling die, and then there are going to be certain colors of die that you don't use depending on what maps you're using, and I think there's like 4 different maps or something like that. But it works almost the same way. Like, you're going to be coloring things in, you're going up the tracks, you are still making the groupings and the town connections and scoring the points and then doing the objectives. It's just a roll and write version. So if you prefer roll and write versions of things, it's kind of giving you that option.
Yep.
Do we like it?
Yes.
Yes.
It's, again, very traditional Reiner Knizia gaming. If you've played games like Babylonia or his more recent one, Sunrise Lane, very similar in terms of like adjacency, grouping, scoring type thing. I did enjoy the uniqueness of the track.
Yeah.
That it's like, well, if you don't get to the top, I don't care how many points you have, you're not going to win.
Yeah.
And it's not super easy to get up those tracks. You might be like, this seems really easy. It's not, because depending on how those groupings happen and where people go, the 2 blue towns could be super far apart. And you can't score enough because, again, if you're the first person to a blue town, you're only going to score 1 point. And you need a decent amount of points to get up to the top of those tracks.
And only, like, you can score the same town multiple times, but they have to be separate groups, which gets to be really difficult to do as you're kind of like filling things out. And one thing, like in our first game that we did a horrible job at, is like, we're like, oh, let's make these big chains of things, which you need to do for some of the objectives, but then your scoring ability for towns becomes like less and less.
You
and
start
like,
stalling really quickly.
Exactly. So there is a really interesting decision space. It plays relatively quickly. Like, it's not, you know, overly like, this isn't going to take you like 2 hours to play.
Very accessible game.
Very accessible.
Yep.
If I had to choose, though, I definitely preferred Cascadero versus the roll and write. However, the roll and write does allow you to play solo, whereas this one doesn't. So if you're like, do I get both? Do I get one? Do I get the other? I preferred this one. And little people are just really cute and bright and colorful. And
I did also prefer the normal version of the game, but that is not abnormal for me. I just tend to not like roll and writes as much as other people.
Yeah, and honestly, like, this roll and write, like, it is kind of like the same as the game, but it's not, this isn't a roll and write I don't think that I would reach for versus, like, something like Three Sisters or something. However, this game is something that I would reach for. So
I think where the roll and write really comes in is if you don't, like, this is a bigger game. So if you don't have table space,
yeah,
this is a good option. If you like to travel with your games, this is another good option.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's servicing a different gamer group than what we are.
Something for everyone. Yeah. And I just noticed it says Deep Clean Series. Deep engaging gameplay, clean simple rules.
Yes.
You'll love to see it. Thank you for that, Bitewing Games. But that is Cascadero and Cascadito. Beautiful Ian O'Toole art. Rainer Knizia. You'll love to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, sent to us from Salt and Pepper Games, we have Operation Barclay. Uh-oh, Jeff.
There's a bunch that I noticed. That one's like that. There was Scare B&B was like that.
Yeah, I do that. So, what is Operation Barclay, you might ask? Well, my friends, it is a 2-player only war-themed game. Okay, so in this game, one side is playing as it's based in World War II. One side is playing as the Germans, the other is playing as the British people. Allies and Axis, basically. So each of those factions is playing a bit of a different game in a way. So if you play as the British, the Allies, you are actually hiding information on this map that you don't want the Germans to figure out, okay? And as the Germans, what you're going to be doing is trying to figure out what 2 sections of the map has the British player hidden the information that you need, basically, okay? So this is a card-based game that also introduces a bit of a poker mechanism. So it's very unique. So basically what you're going to do is you are going to have a hand of cards. And the first 3 turns, you're going to be playing your cards face up. The German player will play, the British player will play, the German player. And some of those cards are going to allow you to do different things, trigger different things. But then you are each going to make a bet, a face-down bet on who you think has the best hand for that round. Poker hand, and you're going to place that chip down. Then the next 2 cards that you play, you're playing face down. Then you are going to flip them up and determine, okay, well, who has played the best hand based on poker rules in a way. So there's like straights and flushes and pairs and all of these things. You do not need to know how to play poker, so don't worry.
I was just going to say that.
Because I don't, and I did not struggle with it. So you are going to be, basically, if you're the German player, you are trying to get as much information as you can. So if you win, you get to take some of these little tokens off the board that correspond with different map locations, where you then get to flip over tiles to determine, like, that's how you deduce the stuff that you're trying to figure out. The British player wins, they just wipe those tiles away. They're just trying to keep the Germans from getting the information.
Yeah, the Allies are trying to survive long enough. I think over like 7 rounds.
Yeah, 6 or 7.
6 or 7 rounds. They're just trying to win poker hands, do other things to limit the amount of information that the Germans can get, so that by round 6 or 7, the game's over and they've won.
Exactly, yeah. The British people are just trying to last.
Survive.
And the German player is trying to either uncover the 2 areas, or they can also win by what is called logic, where you're like, I know for sure that the primary zone is here and the secondary zone is here because logically you can deduce it based on what you already know.
All of these other locations, it's not possible for those 2 locations to be there. So I know they're these 2.
Exactly. Now there is, like I said, some of the cards have different mechanisms. There's spy cards that allow you to like take cards off of one of the decks. So there's like multiple decks you can draw from your hand. You can draw from the Intel deck. You can draw from the double agent or something deck like that. And so you're manipulating a bunch of different cards and kind of building out your hand, just trying to optimize the cards that you play.
Yeah, it's interesting because the cards you start with are better cards. They're better cards.
Your deck,
to be played, but you start losing them. And so if you use too many of them, you actually don't, like, there's not a ton of card draw in this, so you have to be, there's a hand management aspect of this game, because if you start losing those good cards and you're drawing from the other decks, they're not quite as lucrative, so your poker hands are going to start getting worse and worse. And it's also interesting because some of the cards have like multiple values on them, which I thought was neat. Like this card could be used as a 4 as well as a 10 or something like that, you know, for a run of whatever.
Yeah. For sure. And one thing, so if you're wondering, do we like it? I freaking love this game.
I loved it, yes.
Like, if you enjoy games like Watergate, I think you'd really like this game. I actually think I preferred this game, and I only think about that because it's like a 2-player only kind of like push and pull and that kind of thing. But what I really like is that there's a set number of rounds. So this game only takes like 30 minutes to play. Yeah. There is a lot of ways to be strategic and to mitigate the cards that you have in your hand, because certain cards are going to allow you to maybe take a peek at one of the decks and rearrange them, and then you know what cards you're going to be pulling, or there's ways to mess with other people. And I also think that the betting mechanism in this is really interesting. Yeah. Because I would like kind of look at my hand and I'd look at Jeff's hand and be like, I think I can beat him on this, but you don't actually know, because at every time you play a card, you draw a new card. Yeah. So you might be like, I'm just gonna like bet on myself because I think I'm gonna pull a card that's gonna give me the upper hand.
There's also on the cards too. There's little icons on each card. There's like reconnaissance icons, and if you have the most of those, so the first thing you're gonna score for information is the poker hand, the value of the poker hand. And it comes with a really handy-dandy reference sheet of like, okay, I have this is higher than this, whatever. Then you're going to score the icons. So the reconnaissance icons, whoever has the most of them is going to win that portion of information. And then there's one more step.
So yeah, it'll be the bet, which is the most 3 icons, and then the reconnaissance.
Yeah.
I don't know how to pronounce it.
Reconnaissance.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's just multiple ways you can get information, so it's not just straight poker hand.
Yeah.
You know, which is important because, again, if like you're not super familiar with poker, in my opinion, you don't need to know how to play poker in order to enjoy this game. But again, there's other ways you can get information that's not based off of solely winning poker hands.
Exactly.
Because you also win off the bet if you thought you had a higher value hand. There's lots of ways you can get information.
All is not lost if you suck with your poker
hand. I also too, like, I'm a bit biased to the art. So when we were kids, I don't know if this cartoon existed anywhere else, but there was a French cartoon called Tintin, or Tintin, that this art looks exactly like, and it just brought back a lot of nostalgia for me. I love this art style so much, and yeah, I had a phenomenal time.
And I do want to say, like, this, I think, is an excellent intro into, like, wargaming. Honestly, it's not like your standard typical war game, but it has the war theme.
It has some deduction.
Like, it has different types of things. So I do think, like, if someone's like, I don't know if war type games are for me, like, this, it doesn't have anything in it that is, like,
feels
brutal.
I think that's a good word,
right?
For it,
Anyways, this copy that we have is a prototype copy, so just as an FYI, we're going to put all the links and information for you below, but when this does become available, just know we highly recommend it if it sounds like something that you'd be interested in. All right, Jeffy, last game.
Last up from Elf Creek Games, we have Merchants of the Dark Road.
We did purchase this one ourselves whenever... When was, oh my god, was that our first PAX?
It might have been our first convention.
It was our first PAX Unplugged. Like, that's how long, and we got, like, the fancy version.
I basically talked to them. It's like, please make sure to set a copy aside.
We want one.
I know that Merchants, I'm just going to flag it right now. I know Merchants of the Dark Road is a very divisive game. A lot of people do not like it. I just want to state clearly that we do. I've never had an issue with this game. We've enjoyed all of our plays of it. It is a rondel movement game where you are basically trying to collect resources, put it into your caravan, summon heroes essentially to support your caravan, your merchant caravan, to go to locations, to then sell those goods for Queen's favor, victory points, all of those things.
So we did just cover the new expansions if you're interested in learning more about that. But we just wanted to, because we had to play the expansions, obviously, in order to cover them, we recently revisited this game and just wanted to show it a little bit of love because we really do like it. Now, there's a few things that I love about this game. Obviously, the way that it looks.
The production is incredible.
The production is insane. And Elf Creek is just known for that. Like, a lot of, there's some people who aren't into overproduced games. I am not one of those people. Like I said, when we went all in, I have like the little lantern things and everything, and I really appreciate that. I also really enjoy kind of like how much variety there is in this game. There's so many different heroes, there's different companions. You have to make like not overly complex decisions, but you do have to make decisions on, all right, I'm going to go travel. Do you want to come with me? And that can be a risk because you can come with somebody and the travel dice could roll and you could get a negative effect. And you're like, what the heck did I even go on this trip for?
I actually appreciate how, like, I think, I could be off base on this, but I think a lot of people didn't like because they thought it was like too simple.
Yeah.
I actually like the fact that it's relatively simple to do. It's, it feels thematic. Like, I feel like I'm gaining stuff, I'm upgrading it to then go drop it off. I love pick up and deliver.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
I'm somewhat biased in that regard. But every time I've played this, I'm like, this is a great experience. The setup is probably the biggest burden of this game.
Setup is the biggest burden of this game. There's just a lot, and it takes a long time to set up. But I mean, to me, it's worth it. And I do think this is one of those games that I want to show to people that don't know what board games can be, who aren't big into the hobby yet. And so this isn't an overly heavy rule set. So they can pick up on this pretty easily and just see how cool board games are these days.
Yeah. How cool art can be, how cool components can be, how simplistic mechanisms can intertwine, and 100%.
Yeah. So, like I said already, the Kickstarter for the expansion is available now. I'll link our preview video below if you're interested in learning about that. But we just wanted to give a little shout out to Merchants of the Dark Road because it's been a while. And Jenna from the Board Game Garden, this was her favorite game of the year 2 years ago. So there's people out there that do love it a lot. More some of them. So there we go. All right, friends. Those are 5 more games and a sneaky little bonus, Cascadito, that we have been playing recently and what we think about them. We would love to know down below if you've played any of them, if there's any that you're interested in, what are your thoughts? Just tell us everything that's in your brain.
Yeah.
Just brain dump it and Jeff will read it and he'll love doing that.
That's what we do.
That's what we do. But that's everything that we have for you today. Now, if you're interested in buying board games like any of the 5 that we mentioned today, you should first start by checking your friendly local gaming store. And for us, that is
the Boardroom Game Cafe.
If you like what you see,
please subscribe.
We hope to see you again soon. And now we say goodbye. Goodbye.
There it is.
And Juno's like,
not yet,
all right,
not yet,
one more bean. Stops to go, still too little. His hands could hold the world, but it'll never be enough. That's Juno's butt fluff, in case anybody was wondering what I was talking about. Oh, get a husky, they said. It'll be great. Do you love to have hair on everything? You could probably even make a toy out of this. You know when people do those ones where they poke stuff? What's that called? Felting? Juno, stop licking the floor. I specifically remember because I made the comment. Wow, the bracket. Blah, blah, blue, blue. Ew, it's raining a lot. Gross. Ready? A channel all about
board games
and
board gamey things
and wearing sharks on your sweaters.
Playing out, I need to think of what the people
They're
are
like
called.
little horsey people.
In typical track faction.
Next up, sent to us from Salt and Pepper Games. Salt and Paper. Nope, Salt and Pepper. We'll do that again.